within hours of the assembly of experts announcing Mojtaba Khamenei as Iran's new supreme leader, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued its allegiance statement. The exact confirmed words were precise and significant. The IRGC declared it is ready for complete obedience and self-sacrifice in carrying out the divine commands of the guardian jurist of the time, His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Mojtaba Khamenei. It described itself as the powerful soldier and arm of the guardianship, ready to sacrifice everything. It described the new supreme leader as an all-encompassing jurist, a young yet profoundly insightful thinker, and the most knowledgeable figure on political and social matters of the era. The Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces Logistics followed with its own allegiance statement. The IRGC Navy followed with a pledge of blood and faith. Iran's intelligence apparatus followed. Every major security and military institution of the Islamic Republic issued formal allegiance within hours of the announcement. The speed and uniformity of that institutional response was deliberate. It was a message directed simultaneously at three audiences: the Iranian public, the international community, and any faction inside the system considering resistance to the appointment. The message was: the security state is united, the chain of command is intact, and the transition is complete. Whether that message reflects operational reality is the more complicated question, and the confirmed record of how the appointment actually happened answers it differently than the allegiance statements do. Here is the full confirmed account of the fractures behind the unity performance. The IRGC attempted to appoint a new supreme leader on February 28th itself, the same day the bombs fell and Ali Khamenei was killed, bypassing the assembly of experts entirely and skipping the constitutional process. That attempt failed. The Assembly of Experts is the constitutionally mandated body for this function and could not be ignored completely without destroying the legal architecture the IRGC itself operates within. The IRGC then shifted to pressuring the Assembly. Starting early on March 3rd, IRGC commanders made repeated contacts with Assembly members, pressing them to vote for Mojtaba. Members who presented arguments against the appointment were given limited time to speak. Discussion was cut off, a vote was held. US and Israeli bombs struck the Assembly of Experts office in Qom after the votes were cast and before the count was completed. 8 Assembly members then formally stated they would boycott the second session planned for March 5th because of what they described as heavy pressure by the IRGC in favour of Mojtaba Khamenei. 8 members of the 88-member constitutional body responsible for selecting Iran's supreme leader publicly refusing to participate because of military coercion is not a unity signal. It is a documented institutional rupture. Conservative commentator Mohammad Mohajeri said publicly that appointing a leader at that time could be divisive and should be avoided while the war was ongoing. Parliament member Mohsen Zanganeh stated on March 6th that 2 candidates remained in the running and that both were reluctant to accept the position. The Expediency Discernment Council reportedly moved to suspend the Assembly of Experts from completing the selection, a constitutional intervention that, if confirmed, would represent the single most significant institutional conflict of the succession process. The announcement was delayed 5 days from the March 3rd vote to the March 8th public declaration. That 5-day gap between the vote and the announcement is the silence in which the fractures were being managed. The 3 candidates Ali Khamenei himself had nominated in case of his assassination, confirmed by the New York Times as Gholam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, Asghar Hijazi and Hassan Khomeini, were set aside. Reuters reported Khamenei himself had supported either Ejei or Hassan Khomeini. The man the IRGC installed was not the man the previous supreme leader preferred. That is confirmed by the sourcing. The succession is therefore not a continuity of Khamenei's own will. It is the IRGC's preferred outcome imposed over the documented preference of the man it is claiming to honor. The internal rift signals embedded in the public record extend beyond the succession process itself. Iran's Foreign Minister Arakchi's public acknowledgement that Iran negotiated with Washington twice and was attacked both times during active talks stated on Sunday in a live interview, is itself a signal of internal tension between those who pursued diplomacy and those who launched missiles. President Pezeshkian's Saturday apology for Gulf strikes he attributed to armed forces acting without central direction is the most explicit public admission of a command and control breakdown available in the confirmed record. Both statements, IRGC's and Pezeshkian's, came from the civilian political layer of the Islamic Republic. Both pointed, without naming the IRGC directly, at a military organization that has been operating independently of civilian oversight since the first bombs fell. The IRGC's allegiance statement describes Mojtaba Khamenei as the most knowledgeable figure on political and social matters of the era. That description is applied to a man who has never given a public speech, never held elected office, and never delivered a sermon by the organization that pressured the constitutional body to appoint him over 8 members' documented boycott, over the previous Supreme Leader's documented preference, and over conservative commentators' documented public warnings that the timing was divisive. The language of the allegiance statement and the confirmed facts of how the appointment was achieved are in direct and irreconcilable contradiction. The operational picture on Sunday confirms the IRGC's military function continues regardless of the command structure questions. The IRGC announced the 28th wave of Operation True Promise 4 targeting Tel Aviv, Beersheba and the Al Azraq Air Base in Jordan, which it described as the biggest and most active base of US aggressive fighter jets. 5 senior IRGC Quds Force commanders were killed by an Israeli Navy strike on a hotel room in Beirut. Majid Hassini, responsible for transferring funds to Hezbollah and Hamas, Ali Reza B. Azar, Chief of Intelligence in the Lebanon Corps, Ahmad Rasuli, Chief of Intelligence in the Palestine Corps, and Hossein Ahmadlu, a lower-ranking intelligence operative, all killed while hiding in a civilian hotel. The IDF confirmed it also struck the IRGC's space and satellite headquarters, which it said controlled the Qayyam satellite used to monitor Israel and the region. 50 bunkers at an internal security forces base storing ammunition were struck. The Basij headquarters was struck again. Iran's IRGC Deputy Commander Brigadier General Ali Fadavi issued the most direct economic warning of the war Sunday evening. He said, "If you can tolerate oil prices above $200 per barrel, keep playing this game." That statement, from a senior IRGC commander, issued the same day the IRGC pledged complete obedience to the new Supreme Leader, is either a coordinated escalation signal authorized by Mojtaba Khamenei hours after his appointment, or an independent action by the IRGC military command operating on its own authority before the new leader has had time to direct it. The distinction between those two interpretations is the distinction between a unified command and a military organization that pledges allegiance publicly while continuing to operate independently. Trump responded to the succession and the IRGC allegiance Sunday in an ABC News interview. He said Iran's new supreme leader is not going to last long without Washington's approval. He said he will have to get approval from us, and if he does not, he is not going to last long. He said he does not want to have to go back in 5 years and do the same thing again, or worse, let them have a nuclear weapon. That formulation, "not going to last long," is not a diplomatic statement. It is a threat to the life of Iran's new supreme leader issued by the US president. On the same day, the IRGC pledged to sacrifice everything in defense of that leader. The bottom line on the IRGC's allegiance and Iran's internal state on day 9 is this: the allegiance is confirmed, public and immediate. The fractures it papers over are also confirmed, public and documented. 8 boycotting assembly members, 5 days of delayed announcement, the previous Supreme Leader's documented preference overridden, conservative commentators' public warnings ignored, a president apologizing for strikes his military conducted without his authorization, and a foreign minister confirming Iran will not negotiate because it was attacked during active talks. the IRGC has its man at the top of the Islamic Republic. Whether that man can actually direct the IRGC, or whether the allegiance runs in the opposite direction from the new supreme leader to the organisation that made him, is the question the next phase of this war will answer.